Ever wondered why your drums sound flat, weak, don't cut through the mix, whilst the pro tracks have huge, punchy, and tight drums? The secret is drum layering the right way. Now, in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I layer my drums so that they create fat, powerful, and unique sounds using a 3 to 5 sample layering method that works every single time. Let's dive into it. Alrighty, here we are in Ableton. I have a track here which sounds a little bit like this. Now, it's got a couple of drums in, but what we're going to do today is create a huge snare or clap and a huge offbeat hi-hat using layering. So, let's dive into it. What we need to do first is I normally do this in Drum Rack because it's super easy. So Drum Rack is basically the drum equivalent of hosting many samples. So it's like a ton of samplers. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start auditioning some sounds. So let's start with the snare sound. What I'm typically doing to start with when looking for samples is I'm looking for two different types of things. The first is the most important, which is going to provide the main character or timbre of the sound. And this might not be a perfect sample. It might sound really cool, but might lack certain parts which aren't going to make it work well as a snare or a clap sound, or a hi-hat sound if I'm talking about hi-hats. Then the second layers are going to basically fill the holes in the timbre layer that aren't there. So we'll talk a bit more about this in a second, but that's generally my rationale. And then there's a third type of layer, which I'll show you in a second. Let's just go to a sample pack and try find some cool stuff. So, I don't know, let's just go to this PMLD premium stuff. Yeah, they don't endorse me, but I'm finding I use them quite often. So let's look at some snares. Let's just flick through. I quite like that. It's like a snappy sort of rim sound. I do like a good rimming. So let's put that there. And this is going to act as the main timbre, okay? I also like that as well. Like quite tight and snappy. So let's use those two as timbre layers. You can use one or multiple as timbre layers. You'll see why. But I'm just dragging in samples, basically. Oh my god. That's quite nice. It's got some top-end brightness. Now, this is important because it's going to fill out some of the top end and tail that these samples don't have. I like that. That's pretty aggressive. Now, cool. So what we could do as well is find two clap sounds that are going to sound quite similar. So let's find... That sounds good. Now, using the new Ableton 12 Smart Swap, or AI variant thing, I don't know what it's actually called, but it's searching for similar sounds. If you click this little button here, when you're looking for similar sounds. Now you need two layers which are going to sound very similar. You'll see why in a second. So basically, we've got the timbre layers, we've got the high end and tail component, which we might not have in our other elements, and now we're looking for two very similar full spectrum sounds. Those two could work. They're somewhat similar. Cool. Now it comes down to programming this. So we have these snares here. So let's just do this on the... There we go. Duplicate that over. Beautiful. Now I'm going to just basically add these on all of the layers. You might think that's one hell of a thick snare. And that's right, it is. What I'm going to do here is on all these layers here... So, super loud. I'm just going to group them all together. And this is a really nice part of using Drum Rack, because here you can open it up, like so, and you can see all the layers and group them within other layers, like so. So I'm going to highlight, press Command G to create a group that I'm going to call Snare. Nice. So now all my snares are in this group. I'm going to just drag it over to this side here. Cool. So in this group, I have all the snares, and I can open this up. I'm just going to go through track by track here. So the first few are my timbre layers. And I have the access to the sample here. Now, this is quite a thin sound. So what I'm going to do is maybe thicken it up a little bit with a bit of overdrive, just because it's quite a short sound. A bit of overdrive could help give it a bit of grit. And you can see, actually, if you zoom in very closely, this is actually a stereo sample because the left and right channel aren't the same. So what I'm going to do is drop this utility on and do the left channel because that was the loudest one, like that here. And if you press warp as well, if you press ×2, it might make this a bit longer. There we go. And we want to get this in key. Let's just have it only with the bass at the moment. Drums and bass only. That sounds in key. Now, tuning your drums is really important. I'm tuning this to the root note of my track, which is F, because the track's in F minor. Now, I do have perfect pitch, I can tell just off the bat, but if you don't have perfect pitch, which is probably quite common because it's quite a rare thing to have, then you can just flick it up until it sounds good. If it's probably going to sound the best when it's in key or on the 5th degree, but just flick it up. But at the end of the day, if it sounds good, it sounds good. You'd also use an EQ 8 to see if there's anything that's going to tell you what key it's in, like hovering over some of the peaks. Like that's around F there. So's that. So that's a good sign. Now I'm just going to EQ a bit of this low end off. We don't need that. Okay. This is going to be my main timbre layer. So timbre. And then let's take a look into this one. Sounds a little bit out of key. There we go. It's in key. Add an EQ on this one. Take away all the low end we don't need. That's quite a nice snare. That's probably good for now. Let's check this one. Let's get this in key. Now this has got quite a long tail, but what I'm going to do is actually just shave it off with a bit of warping. Not a bit of warping, bit of fade here. It's a bit more punchy. Because I want my drums to be tight and punchy. Reason why is with long tails, they're not going to be able to cut through the mix as well as if you just have a super tight short drum sound. It'll sound super snappy and tight. Generally sounds better in most cases. Then we have this one here. So I like the sound of this. It looks like the sample doesn't start exactly at the start, so let's just add that and a tiny fade to avoid a click. Maybe bump it up a semitone. I think that's actually already in key. And then what I'm going to do, tighten it up a bit. Very, very nice. So I actually might make this my main timbre layer because it's got a really cool slap to it. Now what I'm going to do here is just mix these other sounds in. So let's start with this one. Just a little bit of that. And this one. That's quite cool. Turn that down a bit. Then this layer here. Let's take an EQ on this layer as well. Pick up the low end. Now, these two layers here, which were left out, we're going to do something special here. So these sound quite similar. Close. Let's get them in key. Okay. Cool. So with these sounds here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan one of them hard left and one of them hard right and try get them at the same volume here. So zooming in. This one's at 3.7. This one's at 4.7. So let's just dump this down by 1.1. It should be at the same level now. There we go. Let's just tighten them up a little bit as well with a fade. It's got some weird thing at the end here. There we go. Now, this, I'm just going to turn down a lot. And I'm going to slowly mix this in, and you'll see the difference this makes on the snare. So this snare sound, let's mix these in slowly. You should hear the stereo amount widen up a lot. That's very emphasized there, but just a little bit of that. If I turn this off, hear the sides just pop open. Now, these are not meant to be heard, so to speak. They're meant to be more felt. So subtlety is key here, but of course, this is how I prefer to have them. You can have some pretty obnoxious ones. But essentially what this is doing is, because this is panned hard left, and this is panned hard right, when they collapse the mono, they're going to collapse in the center. But if you listen in stereo, it feels like the clap is absolutely massive, with that stuff in the middle as well from the main timbre layers. They're pretty cool, right? Now, just to glue them all together a bit on the group, I'm going to add a glue compressor here, like this, and look for a slow attack with 30 milliseconds, very quick release. Look for about 3 to 4 dB of gain reduction. There we go. Add that back in. Nice. That's our snare done. So let's take a listen in context of the rest of the drums. Yeah. Turn it down a bit. Super loud. Sweet. Now let's do the same with some hi-hats. So let's go audition some hi-hat samples. So let's take a look. Let's use the same pack. See what we got. I often actually like using shakers more than hi-hats for my offbeats, but let's take a look what we can find. One shot. Here we go. That's got a nice timbre to it. So does that. Let's get a couple in here. That's nice. That's also got a cool sound to it. And then let's look for ones that sound similar. So we've got some nice ones here. So let's layer these. So let's do these on the offbeat. I think that one is the one I want to be the main component. Let's just duplicate that over. Now this is going to need a bit of work because the sample's a bit weird. There we go. A little bit of a fade. And take off that weird bit at the end. Now this sample, it's got a really nice flavor to it, but it's got a lot of resonant build up here. You can kind of hear it. Oh, look at that, yeah, that resonant peak. Take that off. Oh yeah, let's get rid of that. Makes it a little bit glossier. Get rid of the lows. So this is going to be my main timbre layer. Now, let's add in the other layers, like so. And let's just group them together as well. Hi-hat. And then we can go in and edit them. So this is, again, because it's a shaker, it's not starting at rest. It kind of comes in slowly, so let's just add a little bit of a fade here. That's nice. Fade at the end. Make it nice and tight. And again, look, this is not mono. Yeah, I ideally want them to be mono. They can be stereo, but I want them to be mono so I have more control. Let's do this on the right side because the right side was higher. There we go. Now it's in. There we go. Now it's in mono. Let's take a listen to this one. This one's also got a weird part at the start. A bit of fade. And then take off this bit at the end. And then super tight. Now look at this. Super stereo. Let's take that utility. Put it on the right side. Boom. Mono. Beautiful. Again, not quite starting in time. Let's take off this reverb tail. There we go. Sounding better. Now this one. This is also in stereo on the left side. So let's drop that on. Put it on the left. Cool. So this is going to be my main timbre layer. Now let's mix these in as we did before. We have this one. That gives it a bit more thickness. And these two, let's pan this one hard left, this one hard right. But make this one a little bit tighter maybe, because that one's pretty short. There we go. And try to get them at the same volume here. So let's just do that. This one's at minus 6.6. This one's at 7.4. Let's drop this by 0.8. Oh, wait, no. Need to do the other way around. Oopsie. There we go. Both at 7.4. Bump these down. And mix them in here. So you can hear them. I'll emphasize it a lot. That's super stereo, but just a little bit of that. If we take those out. Listen to how much thickness that adds, right? You get the idea. So yeah, on the group as well, the beauty of doing this is we can do that same thing on the group. We can add a glue compressor just to glue them all together. Here. Quick attack, or slow attack even, 30 millisecond attack. A quick release. Looks about 3 dB gain reduction. There we go. Beautiful. Then we can EQ them all together, just to remove that crap in the low end we don't need. And I might just take off that peak a little bit more here. A little bit glossier. Now let's listen in context of the rest of the drums. Sounds good with the snare. Sounds pretty good to me. And the bass. Yeah, the hi-hat's probably a little bit loud. That sounds really good to me. Yeah. So there you have it. This is the concept of layering that I want you guys to remember, because when you layer sounds, in essence, what you're doing is trying to find sounds that are going to complement each other. You might find a sound which you think sounds awesome. You like the character, the timbre of it, or its flavor, but it's just not quite cutting through the mix and doesn't feel fat or full enough. So this is where you use this rationale with drums. You think, okay, if I've got a sound that's got a nice timbre, what is it lacking? Look at the EQ. If it's like got a load of low end but not enough high end, if it's a lead sound, for example, you could layer it with something a bit more high-endy that sounds similar. That's going to fill out the space so it'll sound like one full spectrum sound. If it's a really mono sound, you could be, okay, let's add a stereo layer or two so that it fills out the space and sounds full and fat. But we'll save that for another video. If you want to see that video, comment below, and also make sure while you're at it, hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss it when it comes out, right? So yeah, there you have it. If you want to create huge punchy drum sounds, then layer them properly. Now you could find the perfect sample which is stereo, it's got all a full spectrum sound that you need and is perfect, but often you might need to create that from many layers, right? So you could find something that's got a really cool flavor, but it's not going to cut through the mix. That's where you add in the top layer and some stereo information with 2 other layers, which is going to help. You can use this concept not just on drums, but on other layers like synths, basses, leads as well. If you want to see that video, drop the comment below. But this is instantly going to make your track sound much tighter, much fuller, pro and unique. So if you've liked the video, subscribe for more production tips. It really does help me out. And comment below what you'd like me to do a video on. I read all the comments and I'm here to serve you. And go join our free school community, Marksman's Producer Academy on School. It's totally free. We can listen to your music live and you can ask me questions directly. Plus, there's a bunch of standalone courses there. And if you want to take things to the professional level and do it quickly, we have a program called the Accelerator. In 6 months or less, you will have at least 3 pro-level tracks ready for label release. This is a paid program. If you want to talk about this, link to book a call is in the description. If it's not for you, no worries. We'll see you in the next video. Happy layering!